Good evening and welcome to our Bible study. I must commend the dancers for their innovativeness, their creativity. It's amazing to watch them using social distancing and their unbelievable creative skill to worship the Lord. And so, thank you very much for that. Ghana is a wonderful place. We struggle with a number of things. The things that we are struggling with, every now and again, we believe we have won the battle of racism, for example. And then we're just reminded of how present it is in our midst. And we are responsible for hurting each other. In We have to we have to work hard to see our best as people, as individuals, that we could remove this from our land, from our. We have to, by the grace of God, see how best we can remove that scourge from our daily life. I pray the grace of God will prevail, and I pray that wherever there is offense, that there would be forgiveness. Wherever people are offended, that we'll find a way to forgive those who might have created offense. And we just have to learn a new way to treat with each other, treat with issues, and bring those things, our inner selves, before the Lord, that He would help us. I want to thank those who contributed, those who donated during the course of last week for the Mothers Project that we had on Sunday. And we had our team at the local church, led by Sister June Ann Lee, and she commandeered, led. It's a strong word, but she really directed, and they were able to shop. They were able to take what was brought, and they were able to decide what will go into a basket, what will go into a hamper. And I want to thank all those who made donations, all those, local, overseas. Really want to thank you. I didn't know how it was going to turn out, and I didn't know whether you were going to respond. And you made an extremely challenging and difficult situation possible and easy. I was impressed with the contributions that came cash and in kind to the church, and the leadership of the church ensured that what we said we were going to do, we did. On Sunday morning at 9:30, that's the time we announced that we were going to start the distribution of the hampers. People had already started gathering. I was advised at 6:30. Amazing. This is AM. And they had come from um, villages along our coast. And we had no difficulty with that. But we had a set number that we didn't have a limitless supply, as it were. And we are so grateful to God because it was a very good hamper. And we are grateful for the hundreds who received. Of course, when it came to an end, when the stocks, um, we had no more stocks, I was told. And when that came to an end, I felt so sorry for those who were standing in the line still. I learned some things about um, people. Some people came as a family. The intent was to give each mother, and I assumed that in each family there'd be one mother. And so we kind of worked the thing out that one hamper per family. Well, we had several persons representing families, and that by the time we caught ourselves, the process was too far gone, and we couldn't recall that. And so they are mothers who empty-handed. We It was a learning for us, and but let me again thank all those sons and daughters and mothers who contributed to ensure that another mother would receive a token. And I hope I've said it correctly. There was no we have no system of giving chits. We have no system of a number. You just have to come out early, and once you were early in line, had a mask on, practicing social distancing, which was a huge challenge. People were focused on the hampers rather than focus on their health. Well, we've got to do better than that. Um, Wherever you have to do better, we have to exhibit a greater degree of discipline. And this is an appeal I'm making. I'm thanking um, our sponsors, and our sponsors were ordinary men and women, sons and daughters who responded to this project to be a blessing to a mother. And I want to show you, you are quite a blessing. I stood there and watched uh, as mothers came, and when they opened some of them opened their hampers right there on the spot. That was, to me, that was surprising, but it was a blessing. Yes, we'll do it again, and we'll let you know when. Please, you don't have to call. Um, we have no system where if your friend gave, it meant that you were going to receive something, and or family. We have no system like that. We encourage people to give, and we we gave of our resources, and the people who did a tremendous job. And we just want to say to you, all of you, thank you very much um, for how you operated. Okay, let's go to work tonight. We are in this Old Testament book called Habakkuk. Some of you, forgot that we had a book like that in the Bible, and we are at the point where we are going to pick up what Habakkuk did, what he said, and we really want to welcome all those of you who are watching, viewing the Bible study. You are in the study, and I'm giving you a minute to get your Bible open to the book. And once you get it, we are in chapter 2, and verse from verse 6, and we are going to move our study on from that point. So I want to commend pastors. There are so many pastors who are caught, and churches caught flat-footed in February and in March. But there are so many churches. They are reaching out. Um, they were complete neophytes to the technology, And I'm grateful to God. They have reached out boldly, and they are reaching their people and reaching further afield. And I want to commend you for being bold and being ready and willing to allow your young people on board to help set the whole stage for the virtual Bible study and virtual church service. Um, there are lots who are probably thinking and asking, what, when are we going to reopen? It is an issue that is in our minds, but we have to understand, we have to be very careful. I just read early this morning about two churches in the United States who opened about 2 weeks ago, and they have just closed again because of um, infection among their people. We have to be extremely sensitive. We are a hugging, kissing, backslapping kind of fellowship. We love each other, and right now, that kind of behavior, to do it publicly, to do it with strangers, as we would normally do it, would have done it before. We have to look at all of those things and rethink how we relate in fellowship with one another. So pray for Guyana, pray for the world will break the back of the pandemic, and I only He can do it, and so we'll be able to continue our life with all the learnings that we would have acquired during this period. I want to encourage you that you cooperate. We should only, with the authorities, you should only go out if you really have to. And we pray that the blessing and the grace of God will be your portion. Now, bear in mind, this Babylon, God said to have this mighty, powerful nation called Babylon will come and correct the ills you have in your society. Babylon will correct whatever ills you have. You have cried to me, you have pleaded with me, you've even accused me of not being involved. But Babylon will come. When Habakkuk heard this, he was extremely dismayed. He was devastated. He said to the Lord, "For these people, yes, we are wicked, but these people are more wicked than we are. How can you use these people, God?" And what the Lord was now saying, because of Babylon's attitude, you know, Babylon's attitude, their character, they have become so pompous, so arrogant, so proud of all their achievement. No nation could stand before them. None. In their time, Babylon was the world power. And they just ruled into a country. Their system of occupation was something like this. They would take the best brains. They would take the uh, young men and women who had brilliant potential, and they would remove them to the center, bring them, take them away from the country they're about to besiege and they're about to dominate and conquer, and they would go for the young, bright young minds, and they would take them into the center where they would train them, they would teach them, where they would instruct them for a 3 year period in the ways of the Babylonians, in the culture, in the arts, in the sciences, in government, and everything. And then they would send them back to these countries to run these countries like any good Babylonian would. So that's their system. That's how they work. The Romans didn't use a system like that. The Romans came and they imposed their will on all those they conquered. So you always, if you are a subject of Rome, you were always under their authority. The Roman soldier was seen every day, every night. And a Roman citizen could commandeer any non-Roman in the kingdom to take his weight, take his shopping, to take his load 1 mile. That was written in the law. A Roman citizen could commandeer any non-Roman, any minority, to take his weight. Jesus came on the scene and he just said, listen, if they tell you take their load for 1 mile, you take it 2 miles. Some folk didn't understand what he was trying to say to people. The first mile you're a slave. Jesus was making it very clear. When you take it the second mile, you operating as a free moral agent. And the Romans were confused by those who did it because they moved from being slaves, being dominated, to exercising their own will and invariably leading in those situations. So here we have now Habakkuk is told, because of the attitude, because of the arrogance, and people become arrogant for varying reasons. They go off to university and they certify themselves, and all of a sudden when they return, there's a major change in life, their wealth, one way or the other, and it changes their personality. Well, it doesn't really change their personality. What it does, it provides an environment for their real personality to shine through, because they now have the opportunity and they have the means. Woe to him, to these people, when they come among you, they come with their might and their power. But here, from above the sun, was a message that seemed to be conflicting. That God is allowing them to come, but at the same time, He's saying, "I know they will um, conduct in a way where uh, they will indulge in excessive behavior, and they will become drunk and all of those things." But here it is: woe to him who increases what is not his. Woe to him. It's a distress. It's painful, excruciating pain. Woe to him who increases what is not his. So, in speaking about dishonest accumulation, and I made a point on Sunday. If this was true when it was first issued, if this principle was correct then, it is correct now. If this principle was established by God then, that same principle holds today. Those who, irrespective of whoever they might be, accumulate wealth using dishonest means. And to him who loads himself with many pledges. The Babylonians, because of their might and their power. But that's all you have to do. One that it struggles with young people who enter into politics and enter into a top line position, there is a tendency to be loaded with many pleasures. I Dr. Monroe said to a young man who was a dentist, and he came to Dr. Monroe and said, Pastor, I want to enter into politics. And Dr. Monroe asked him, um, are you finished studying? Yes, I'm through with my academic career. Do you own your own house? No. I think there were two or three questions he asked him. Do you have major debt? Yes. And he said to him, you're not ready. I don't advise you to do so. I heard that young man many years after spoke about that. You see, when you get to these positions and you do not have these things, you may find to load yourself with many pledges. Here, here, Habakkuk was told, woe to those who um, put themselves in this position. And that's the reason why you really need successful, matured people to lead public life. You put two young people, and I have no problem with young people. Young people, they have to be mentored, they have to be raised, um, they have to be encouraged, and or else you'll have serious challenges. You know, will not your creditors rise up suddenly? Will they not awake and you will become their booty because you have plundered many nations? All the remnant of the people shall plunder you because of men's blood and the violence of the land and the city and all who dwell in it. Lots, whether it's in Thailand, Indonesia, Madagascar, South Africa, Iraq, Iran, Cameroon, Gabon, Colombia, Argentina. People are always offering themselves to lead. Guyana. But humans are the same all around the world. And if you do not have that kind of structure inside of you that will protect you, will be exposed. The Babylonians, they came with might, power, and arrogance, and they accumulated. If you, all you have to do is look around and see. That's all you have to do. But the war is there. War, dishonest accumulation. Secondly, I'm trying to get to these five wars tonight. Woe to him who covers evil, who covets evil gain for his house, that he may set his nest on high. It's talking about coveting. Yeah, I'm trying to deal with lights here. Woe to him who covets gain, for that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of disaster. You give shameful counsel to your house, cutting off many people, and sin against your soul. For the stone will cry out from the wall, and the beam from the timbers will answer it. It's dealing with woe to those who covet the possession of others. There are people in our 21st century world who are caught in this vice, who covet the possession of others. This principle, this principle established here by God, notwithstanding the might and the power of the Babylonians, people suffered greatly because uh, this was their set. This is how they set their sail. Ship sail east. The poem says, ship sail west, or wherever the wind will blow. It is the set of the sail and not the gale that will determine where the ship will go. If you set your sail to be to do evil, if you set your sail to live by trickery, if you set your sail to work hard and to live an honest, hard life, you sail to study, you set your sail, you will achieve. You will not covet what is others, what does not belong to you. It belongs to others. And you set your sail to do that, you will achieve much. But if you set your sail to pursue after and to take what is not yours, this is what Habakkuk said the Babylonians, because they're powerful. When people see them, people give up their rights, people surrender. Those things are still happening today. And then you have people who believe that because they have some kind of contract with you, they have a right, they have a right to always be dominant. It's amazing. Woe to those who covet the possessions of others. It is not yours. Leave it alone. It's not yours. Leave it alone. And by God's grace, and by dint of hard work and the blessing of God, there's something still called the blessing of God. And God might use unlikely people, unlikely sources to be a blessing to you. And so Habakkuk, as he lamented, how are you going to use these wicked people? The word came very clear to him what you ought to do. The third woe is one that perhaps we should look at it a little. Woe to him who builds a tongue with bloodshed, who establishes a city by iniquity. Behold, is it not of the Lord of hosts that the peoples labor to feed the fire, and nations weary themselves in vain? Verses 11 and 12. Woe to him who builds a tongue with bloodshed. I really would want to reiterate this point, and I want to establish that there is not just a blight, but a curse on those who accumulate wealth or gain by wicked means. There's some people who really believe that the end justifies the means. And here we have a clear utterance here. This doesn't come from any political system. God is saying, you see the Babylonians, because of their power, and you have to see, I'm dealing with this thing called power. In my years, I've seen powerful people. I've seen them when they were not powerful. I've seen them in the ascendancy. I've seen them when they've established themselves. And I've also seen them when they have fallen. All you have to do in this life is live long enough, and you'll see powerful men and women. And the question is asked is, how are the mighty fallen? How are these powerful people fallen? How can these people who, when they spoke, everybody else trembled? Woe to him. Listen, there is nothing wrong, nothing improper with building a town or building a city, establishing a city. Nothing is wrong with accumulating wealth. It is legal and it is desirable. It is legal and it is desirable. Everything, however, is wrong if we decide to build a town using violence, using bloodshed. It is painful when we look in some aspects of our growth and our development. You have people who literally they lie to themselves and then they lie to others who listen to them. The water conservancies in this, they're responsible for supplying fresh water to the city, to the coastline, the east coast, the east bank, even the west Demerara. I understand that the last one, I didn't know that one was dug by slaves also. There's one in Mocha that I read about, well, pretty like over the last couple of years, and I went to see it. Every child should have that knowledge that this was forced labor. Slaves were human beings who were enslaved, and they lost their dignity and their rights because no man should control another human. And that's the wickedness of slavery. And there's some who are saying to us that slavery is, they're trying to equate slavery with other systems. Slavery is one of the most reprehensible, perhaps the most reprehensible systems, economic system supported by religion for one race to dominate another race, and not just dominate them, but to control them, where they lost their dignity, they lost their rights, they lost everything that is theirs. And one of the reasons why there is this big disparity in those who have become victim to the pandemic in developed countries. They are, the anthropologists and the sociologists, they're the ones looking and they're seeing all these deaths, but they are also able to point out there are groups who are marginal, have been marginalized. They live on the fringe. They live in a country that is pretty prosperous, but they barely get by. They've been living on the fringes of the society. They live, but how? They eat, but what? They socialize, but how? So now you have this pandemic that has got no respect for people. You find that the minority groups, for example, in America, the African Americans and the other minority groups, they are saying, I'm just repeating to you what they're saying to us. In very many instances, fatality is very high among them because of the inequalities in the system. And here, Habakkuk, all those who do political science, and all those who want to become um, politicians should learn this, that there's a woe to those who want to build a city using violence. It is a very clear statement. You should not do that. Should not build a city or a town using bloodshed. Um, I have intentionally determined that I want to move in a particular direction, and we have some painful things in our past. When we look into our past, we are ashamed the way how we've treated each other. No tongue should be built using violence. No city should be built using bloodshed. And an opportunity must be created for all to be able to live a prosperous life. And Habakkuk was told the Babylonians then they had a mindset, they had a system that didn't cater for any. Never in the 21st century. In verse 14, a verse that I love, for the earth, if you want to find out what is the purpose of the earth, what is our purpose here, that the earth will be filled not with bloodshed, not with violence, not with advantage, but the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. It is amazing that for us as ordinary people, God wants His knowledge. God wants knowledge to be widespread. And this is one of the reasons why we are pastors, evangelists, prophets, apostles, teachers. We have not decided to, well, we'll wait out this pandemic and then we'll start all over. No, no, no. We have to fill this earth with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord. Something happens to a society. When the church went to Rome, the church found that infanticide was the prevailing. The law was written in such a way where if a woman got a baby and she didn't want it, she could leave it right there. Infanticide was the order of the day. And therefore, modern challenges like abortion, all of those things were Rome. was a society where everybody did what is right in his own eyes. And once you submitted to and respected and honored and revered uh, the gods of Rome, you're okay. When the church got there, you and I look at movies. It is the knowledge of the glory of the Lord. A very powerful movie like Gladiator. It's not just a movie. It captures you at a particular point in time. Rome, that's how they had entertainment. That's how they had fun. That's how they enjoy themselves. That was their theater. Their theater, and this was people went to the Colosseums. 60,000, 120,000 people screaming, and you have gladiators, human beings fighting, and with a thumbs up, they would live. With a thumbs down, the loser would die a horrible death. People saw a man lose an arm or a leg or was stabbed brutally. That was the culture, like how we shout at cricket. That is what they did in Rome, the games. When the church rolled into Rome, the church taught the principle, the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, the sanctity of human life. So it said that a baby was a human and life was sacred. And you and I and the Romans didn't have the right to slaughter children. Neither did they have the right to kill each other in the Colosseum. But this was a part, this was a sport. Businessmen traveled the world taking unfortunate humans captive, breeding them like people would breed animals to fight. And that's how they used to operate. But when the knowledge of the glory of the Lord came among them, Rome saw a change in that behavior. And this is the purpose. The purpose is not to bring oppression. The purpose is not to take advantage of others. And in every country, not all one country, there are people who take advantage of the less fortunate. And there are people who take advantage of others who are not necessarily less fortunate, but make bad decisions and wrong choices. And then so you have someone who's doing that. The knowledge of the glory of the Lord fills the entire earth as the water covers the sea. And this will happen when people hear this. This will happen. It is amazing, you know, the promotion of drunkenness. The Babylonians were told you're going to be destroyed because you promoted, you took drunkenness to an art form. Let's read what it says. Woe to him who gives drink to his neighbor, pressing him to your bottle, even to make him drunk, that you may look on his nakedness. You are filled with shame instead of glory. You also drink and be exposed as uncircumcised. The cup of the Lord's wrath will be turned against you, and utter shame will be in your glory. For the violence done to Lebanon will cover you, and the plunder of beasts, which made them afraid because of men's blood. It is dealing with the promotion of drunkenness. What profit is the image that its maker should carve it? The molded image, a teacher of lies, that the maker of its mold should trust in it. This is leading me into the fifth woe. Drunkenness. I hear people saying, "Why she could hold her drinks, why he could hold his drinks," and people are admired. But wine is a mocker. Strong drink is raging, and all those who go in that direction is not wise. The Babylonians promoted drunkenness. Their kingdom was destroyed while the Medes and the Persians were coming into their city. They were having a big party, and there's some people, political leaders, village leaders, they want to keep people always in a stupor, and so they always have a party. They always have uh, some kind of activity where people drink and sport and have a good time. They're hardly getting a chance to think sober, to be sober. So it's a terrible thing when that is allowed. I don't think any state should be a sponsor of sport. We use the word. No, no, no. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the promotion of drunkenness. There are different times we not different. Well, there are different times in our calendar. We watch in our own country, and we know what will happen on the streets during that period, and that is being sold to us now as culture. But it's very destructive. It destroys those young minds, young lives. I almost called her name, but I remember her. She went to one such function, um, and in this function, um, they had access to a pool, well, to a creek, not a pool. And her girlfriend said to her, "Let us come with me. I want to go at the back there and relieve myself." And they walked through the bushes for a little while, and she came face to face with a young man who she recognized as her friend's friend. And she wasn't too happy with that situation. Her friend betrayed her. Friend said she wanted to go and relieve herself, but the friend was going to meet someone. And in between, from among the trees, three other men suddenly appeared, young men, and they took advantage. Yeah, they sexually abused her. They brought her. There were four of them who did it to her, and this girl was on the verge of suicide, and she couldn't catch herself. She was betrayed, and they were saying, "Man, everything's all right, man. You get a little fun." And so they had been drinking, so the judgment couldn't really make the kinds of decisions that they needed to make, and she was abused terribly. When she met with me, she told me the story. I was extremely angry because she could have been my child. And I remember I had to do several things. One, I took her to the police, uh, reported the matter, accompanied her, ensured that the matter is reported. This is like 2 days after this thing happened. Insisted that she should be taken to the hospital. And this was done. And when this was done, I heard that she lost her job. She was working at one of the bakeries in the city because of drunkenness and greed. And I went to meet the owner of that bakery and sat with him. And I spoke to him as a man, as a father. And he said, I've never seen life the way you've explained it to me. She can turn back out to work. I will watch over this child. I didn't know these things you explained to me, and he watched over her for the time she remained in this country. As I had one of the ministers work along with me, we discover, because the police caught one of the men. This when people drink, they do things, they say things that they regret. And this is the Babylonians. They were about to lose their entire kingdom because of this drunkenness. And we found one, two, we found those four culprits. The worst was the one who was in prison. And I didn't think in my wildest dream about this one. He was HIV positive. And so the big fear now was that she just wasn't only raped and violated, but she could have been infected. They gave her the wide spectrum antibiotics at the hospital, and but when HIV question came into play, it was a frightening. I mean, I sat looking at her, and she was crying all over again, crying all over again. And yes, in those days, I'm encouraging her mother, and sometimes I take them and do did the test, and the first one was negative. This was unprotected sex by this criminal. In the midst of that, he dies, full blown AIDS. In those days, the antiretrovirals, that the cocktail of drugs that people use, those things weren't even known about. And she was uh, 6 months after, again, another test. 3 months after that, another test. And they were all negative. It's just the grace of God. But look at the pain that happened to that family. And then she came to see me and she said, I'm migrating. And I thought, oh God, help her. And she migrated. And 1 year after, she returned to this country and introduced me to her husband and said to her husband, you have to meet my father. This man helped me. And I believe this is what happens when we're able to establish clearly. You see these principles? An entire society reveled in promoting um, drunkenness. You could imagine the abuse that took place. because they not only have this insatiable desire to do these things, but they have they have the ability to enforce whatever they wanted to do. They have the swords, they had the technique, they had the power, brute force. And Habakkuk now writes and says, "Woe to them who says to wood, awake, to silent stone, arise. It shall teach. Behold, it is overlaid with gold and silver, yet in it there is no breath at all." Woe is dealing with the issue of idolatry. No, ladies and gentlemen, this is a clear word from God about a culture that practice all these other things, including idolatry. When you confuse the creation with the creator, don't ever do that. Serve God and serve Him alone. Well, we pray that you will come to a place where you really understand that these practices among the Babylonians, they were there is not the force of those. It was their own internal difficulties. The fact that they were greedy, the fact that they were covetous, the fact that they love violence, the fact that they not only love violence, but they worship drunkenness and also idols. And while they reign and they dominated many countries around the world, the time the clock was ticking and Habakkuk was told, those same people will be destroyed. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to encourage us to take seriously these words so that at the individual level, we say keep ourselves away from some of these woes, all of them. But it's up to you. The beauty about it is not to say that this is something that the church is trying to put on you. Oh, no, no, no. This is the God made us free moral agents, and it's a beautiful example to show the world. If you do A, B, C, D, E, this will be the outcome. May God help you. May God help us. Shall we pray? Father, I ask you, especially for young men and women across this nation and around the world who are concerned about uh, how to live, how now shall we live. They're graduating from universities and they're going into a system that is just like what we just discussed here tonight. They're at university and they're being recruited by a system that is wicked, that is worldly. They come out as young professionals and they're being recruited not by their professional associations, but by a system that is extremely destructive, that you judge Babylon for. Help these young men and women today, wherever they are. Deliver them from the clutches and the power of this world system, this Babylon system. Yeah. Let the fire of your Holy Ghost literally extricate those young minds from this system of evil. Thank you for setting them free. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, I pray that you will hold fast to the things of God and the Word of God. I want to encourage you to adhere to the scriptural principles about giving, even during this pandemic. And I want to encourage you to ensure that you give God the authority to rebuke the devourer from your storehouse. And that happens when we bring his tithes and our offerings into the storehouse. I rebuke the devourer. I pray in the name of Jesus, you will make your way to the house of God and give God the right to rebuke the devourer from your lives. And you'll be able to prosper in this season, in spite of what you see happening around you. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless you in your profession. And I pray that God will not just bless you, but God will protect you, protect your loved ones, protect your families. We'll be meeting again, the Lord willing, on Friday night, and we will come back by the grace of God Sunday morning, where virtually we will have a service. We will come into your room, come into your space. I want to invite you to join us these Wednesdays and Saturdays, 5 a.m. for a prayer meeting. It's a growing prayer meeting for 1 hour. It's virtual, and I want to encourage you to really find out how you can be a part, how you can be a part. And on Pentecost Sunday, which is 50 days after the Passover, it's going to be the 31st of May. We are going to have a wonderful service. I don't want you to miss it. Yeah, we are a little way from there, but I don't want you to miss. Plan to be there and plan to be in our virtual prayer meeting. Plan to be. Both meetings are virtual, and we pray. Um, I expect something powerful that will happen um, in 2020 as we wait in the presence of God. Love you. God bless you. Please be safe. The Lord willing, we will see you.